Welcome back to another morning update of Hcmc. Now don't get me wrong, this one is coming out a bit later in the day, but so far we can see that Hcmc has been moving a lot throughout the day. We can see that from 9:30 up until now, which is United States time 11:08, the share price has tumbled down by a further 8%. Of course, I'm filming this at the UK time of about 3:30, so you can imagine a lot could happen in the time after filming this video, so hopefully I will be back with you again tonight, giving you another look at what does happen. But yeah, so far we are seeing a lot of sell-off action. People were very optimistic this morning because I do believe that the share price picked itself up for a bit. So again, if we look at how this one was moving from about 1 o'clock yesterday up until this high here at about 10 o'clock, we can see that honestly we had some very good motion, up by about 18%, and then it just came crashing back down to a similar level where we were at before. Still up by 4%, that's amazing, that's fantastic, but it's obviously taken a lot of those gains away. So I'm going to be talking about what we have seen so far, what's going on with the general market today, and what I think about Hcmc today, whether I would consider it a buy at the current moment, or whether I would avoid it, and what I am personally doing. If you want to hear my opinions, make sure to smash that like button and to smash that subscribe button. Again, as I have mentioned, we talk about Hcmc all the time. Probably will be another video with you later this evening. So again, another reason to stick around if you haven't already. But yes, let us jump into this one looking at Hcmc. So we're going to start this one over on the Yahoo Finance interactive charts. This one basically gives us a candlestick look at how the stock has been moving. So obviously, if you look at this chart, we can see a lot of very green action coming from about the 21st of January or February. And of course, in that time period, we rocketed up to highs of about 0.006, and people very optimistic about the stock. Rightly so, I think there is a lot going for this company. It's something which I constantly talk about. The lawsuit is the main thing which people have their eyes on, and that is okay. The fundamentals of the company may be great, that's up to you to decide. Of course, make sure to do your own research. But yeah, whatever the fundamentals of the company are, that's all fine and dandy, but that's not really what the investors are concentrating on at the moment. We all know people are in this one for the lawsuit, and that is absolutely fine. But I think when people were getting in here at the 0.005 range, the 6 range, you know, around this area here, anywhere from about 4, let's say, perhaps even 3 or above, I think people were getting in this one out of hype alone. Now again, not always a bad thing. We have seen stocks that go to the moon overnight. It does happen. It's rare, it's very rare, don't get me wrong, but it does happen from time to time. And with penny stocks especially, but with stocks in general, especially these cheap ones though, it is extremely hard to tell which one's going to be the next one to rocket and which one's going to be the one that dies off. And of course, there's so many penny stocks out there that people are hyped about, who knows which ones are going to move. And that is why I always consider Hcmc as a bit more of a gamble, because again, even though this lawsuit might go well, it may go well, it could take time, and of course we could see Hcmc share price fall in the meantime. Not a bad thing, guys. I do own about 846,000 shares, so again around 850,000 shares I own, and I am okay with this one falling. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but yeah, so far let's just discuss what we have seen this morning. I got a bit distracted there. So I'm going to start off looking at what we saw yesterday. If we look at this big green wick down here, or at least this big green bar, we can see this talks about volume. Now if we can quickly highlight volume, which we saw yesterday, if it will allow me, yes we can see volume yesterday was about 4 billion. Now that might sound like a large number, it is a large number, don't get me wrong, but the amount of shares which are basically out there to trade with Hcmc is well over 100 billion. So again, that's a large number, 4 billion is as well, but obviously when we think about 4 billion out of 100 plus million, perhaps even around 200 billion I do believe, when we think about that number, it's obviously not that large, and it hasn't moved the share price too much. That is okay, that's completely fine. Again, volume, that could be people buying, it could be people selling, it could be people shorting, who knows for sure. Overall though, it does still show a lot of motion in the stock. This is good, this is very good I do believe. Even if the share price isn't moving with the volume, it shows that people are still thinking about Hcmc, people are still doing things with Hcmc stock, which is good. Even if they are selling, you know what, it's still an interest in the stock, I think that's fine. Now if we move over to today's volume, again I do want to focus, it is only 3:30, but if we do move over to what we have seen today, volume so far of about 1.51 billion, so about 1.5 billion volume that we are seeing in about 2 or 3 hours so far. Again, very high volume numbers so far, very good. I'm happy to see that once more. I think it does still show interest in the stock. Now, another thing which I want to talk about is a motion that we have been seeing of the share, looking at the candlesticks over the past 2 or 3 days. So again, sell off, sell off, sell off all the way down here. People basically losing interest about this stock. I've spoken about this before. I think people bought into HCMC thinking it was going to make them a millionaire overnight. Now, HCMC has a lot of potential, don't get me wrong. This lawsuit is a big deal. It's a massive deal, I do believe. I think it could have a massive impact in a positive way going forwards for HCMC. But the fact of the matter is, HCMC and this lawsuit, it could be settled very soon, don't get me wrong. I hope it is, because again, I do own shares and I do want to see this one rocket. But the fact of the matter is, it may take years, if not months at least, to see this share price rocket, because these legal proceedings can take a lot of time. So I think a lot of people who thought this was going to make them a millionaire overnight kind of sold off in this time period, which again is not too bad. I think it made room for the real investors. And now we are seeing a continuous sell-off over the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't think that's bad either. I think again, people are kind of getting a bit fed up with HCMC, they're cutting their losses, and that is fine. This is something which I've spoken about in many of my previous videos. I think HCMC is probably going to go lower. I don't think that's bad. I do hope that I'm wrong. I hope that HCMC picks itself up immediately, but I can see this one going much lower in share price in the next few months. April is the next date that we are waiting for the lawsuit, and don't get me wrong, I think this is just going to bring more hype. As far as I'm aware, it may not bring any proper, reasoning to see the share price explode. It could do so, it definitely could, but again, people are getting these numbers in their head and thinking that on a specific day, the share price is going to rocket. I think if the share price does continue to go lower, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't buy this stock at the moment. I definitely would consider it a buy overall, but at the current price, I could potentially see this one dropping even lower. So I'm definitely monitoring HCMC on a daily basis. I'd like to add around another 200,000 shares to my personal position. I want to get up to 1 million shares of HCMC. But again, 1 million shares is a large number. It's a lot of money for me. It's probably a lot of money for you guys, but we all know I'm only putting into this stock what I'm willing to lose. Guys, if the stock rockets to the moon and I get rich off HCMC, fantastic, marvellous, sensational. If the stock goes to the floor and if I lose a lot of money on HCMC, I've lost like $2,000, It's one of these situations where you do definitely need to be aware of the risk. It's all fine just looking to the good side of HCMC, but there is also a potential that the price could continue to drop. So you do need to be aware of how much you're willing to lose in a worst case scenario. So I just want to keep, reiterating that one because I think it is important. So I'm not even too bothered that HCMC is down today. I think it's fine. The share price could move up for the rest of the day. The share price could move down for the rest of the day. I am not too bothered. Now, people are referring to this pattern that we are seeing of continuous up-down motion. People are calling this barcoding. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as in this episode. So I do believe that we are going to see this barcoding continue for the rest of the day. I would definitely allow it to continue in this range down here, in the 0.0012 range, up to the 1.3 range, or at least the mid 1.2 range. So again, not too bothered about that either. We could even see this one drop to the 0.0011 range, and that wouldn't be too bad. Now, the general stock market is moving in quite a decent way today, a bit of a sell-off coming towards midday, and this is also reflecting in HCMC as well, so it would be a fair argument to say that a lot of the market is reflecting HCMC. I definitely would take that argument on side. So again, Russell 2000, I think this one is most appropriate for HCMC because this tracks 2,000 of the smallest stocks. This one is actually moving up quite a positive amount today, but obviously recently it is selling off a bit. So we'll have to see if this one finishes up today green or if this sell-off does prevail and we finish today red. But so far up today, I've seen a bit of a sell-off similar to that of HCMC. Moving over to the Dow Jones. Dow Jones today is moving up in a very strong fashion. Now, Dow Jones tracks some of the strongest companies in the United States, so again, that's not really a fair reflection on HCMC when the Dow Jones includes companies like Amazon, Tesla and whatnot. Now, if we move over to the S&P, well, the S&P obviously tracks 500 stable American companies, and we can see so far it's up by a relatively small amount, up by 0.2. Now, again, the S&P is never going to be up by like 25% in a day. The S&P is a strong and stable index, so it's not going to move too much, but we can see a similar pattern to a lot of the other indexes, and again, a similar pattern to HCMC. Starting off the day quite strong and selling off so far. We'll have to see if it finishes off red for the S&P or if it can keep in the green. But yeah, for that reason, I'm not too concerned about HCMC selling off. Again, on top of that, I think this one is more of a long-term hold, as this lawsuit is what we are all really looking for. So we'll have to wait to see what happens with that. But that's my opinions on HCMC so far today. I'll have to bring you another video later looking at what we have actually seen and what I would do subsequently. Again, hopefully we can break past this one up to the previous highs of the day. But again, I would also be aware that this one could fall even lower. So I wouldn't be too concerned either way. I wouldn't add shares at the moment. Perhaps this may change towards the end of the day depending on what we see, but I'll be talking about that then and there. So thank you for joining me for this one. I know it's been quite long, but I just wanted to reflect on what we have seen so far. So thank you. I'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.